Welcome to this explainer. Look, today we're going to do something absolutely incredible. We're taking decades, literally decades, of financial wisdom, pulling the absolute best ideas from the greatest financial books ever written and distilling them all down into one definitive guide. We're completely stripping away the noise, the jargon, the whole shebang, and focusing purely on the proven blueprint for actually building wealth. I mean, just imagine waking up tomorrow morning with absolutely zero financial anxiety. You check your phone and there's no fear of bills, no panic about your job, no feeling like you're just endlessly running on a treadmill. It sounds amazing, right? But here is the shocking truth about how we're raised. Our schools do a fantastic job teaching us chemistry and calculus and history. But you know what's crazy? Almost nobody teaches us the actual psychology of money. They totally skip over the rules of the game we are literally all forced to play. So we are going to fix that right now. Here's our agenda for reconstructing your financial habits from the ground up. 1. The biggest wealth lie. 2. Assets versus liabilities. 3. The power of tiny habits. 4. Automating success. And 5. The ultimate wealth blueprint. Let's dive in. Okay, section 1, the biggest wealth lie. The truth is, behavior is greater than money. To really get into this, we have to immediately confront a massive misconception. We all kind of assume wealth starts with money, right? That getting wealthy is just about earning a bigger paycheck. Well, actually, scratch that, it isn't. It completely starts with behavior. The brilliant author Morgan Housel hit the nail on the head when he said, financial success is not a math problem, it's a psychology problem. Think about it. If you hand $1 million to two people with completely different mindsets, 5 years later, one of them's a billionaire, and the other, probably bankrupt. It's the exact same pile of money, but it just amplifies who they already are. Money doesn't fix bad habits, it just funds them. And that brings us to this stark contrast between what people think wealth looks like and what it actually is in reality. Honestly, so many people don't really want wealth. They just want the appearance of it. They want the flashy luxury cars, the expensive watches, the designer clothes. But the truly wealthy, they often look surprisingly ordinary. Why? Because real wealth is invisible. When you see a $10,000 watch, it simply tells the world, hey, I spent money. But a hidden investment portfolio? That tells the world someone kept their money. All right, let's move on to section 2, assets versus liabilities. This is the simple mechanical engine of wealth, famously introduced by Robert Kiyosaki. The absolute foundational rule here is so incredibly simple. An asset puts money into your pocket, and a liability takes money out of your pocket. That's it. Yet millions of people completely confuse the two every single day, buying up liabilities while falsely convincing themselves they're acquiring assets. Let's look at what this actually looks like in practice. Picture two friends, and they both get a $10,000 bonus at work. Friend A goes straight out and buys a brand new luxury watch. Friend B takes that exact same 10 grand and buys shares in businesses. Fast forward 5 years, what happened? Friend A has a scratched up watch that's lost a ton of value, while friend B owns investments that have just quietly grown in the background. Friend A bought temporary status. Friend B bought long-term freedom. To really cement this idea, think of it like adopting a pet. Imagine pet number 1 brings you fresh food every single day, and pet number 2 just eats your food every single day. I mean, which one are you going to keep? Assets feed you, liabilities feed on you. Highly successful people let their assets pay for their luxuries, rather than going into debt to finance their present lifestyle. So, section 3, the power of tiny habits. Building on that mechanical foundation, let's look at James Clear's philosophy. We need to shift our focus away from the big purchases and zoom way in on the thousands of tiny decisions we make every single day. I want you to imagine a standard chessboard for a second. Now picture placing just one single grain of rice on the very first square. Now imagine doubling that amount on every single square after that. 1 grain becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, then 8, then 16. At first, this doubling feels totally insignificant. It's just a pinch of rice. But as you move across that board, that single grain rapidly explodes into millions.
But here's the catch. Our brains are hardwired to think linearly. This is exactly why we totally underestimate the power of saving a mere $10 or reading just 10 pages a day. It feels so meaningless in the moment. But wealth, just like nature and knowledge, grows exponentially. It compounds quietly in the background, multiplying faster and faster, way before it ever becomes visible to the outside world.
And this brings us to a massively important realization. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. A goal might pump you up for a day or maybe a week, but your daily system, that is the invisible architecture that actually transforms your financial reality over time. Which perfectly leads us into Section 4, Automating Success. How do we guarantee these systems actually work? We automate them, completely removing willpower from the equation. First, we have to automate the mind. Napoleon Hill figured this out years ago. If you walk around genuinely believing you'll never be rich or that you're just unlucky, your brain will literally act as a defense lawyer, constantly searching for evidence to prove you right. It's called confirmation bias. Your subconscious works exactly like Google Maps, folks. If you don't plug in a clear destination, it can't calculate a route to get you there. You have to actively program constructive beliefs so your brain starts filtering reality to spot opportunities. Next up, we automate our environment. This is a brilliant strategy from Ramit Sethi. Imagine if building wealth required as much daily motivation as brushing your teeth, which is to say, zero, because the habit is just baked in. The exact moment your salary arrives, your money should automatically transfer to your investments and your savings before you even have a chance to look at it. You simply spend whatever is left over. This completely protects you from yourself. It stops those emotional Friday spending sprees where you end up justifying a totally unnecessary new gadget as self-care. All right, we made it to Section 5, the ultimate wealth blueprint. Let's pull everything we've talked about today into one cohesive step-by-step system. Constructing wealth isn't magic, guys. It's a highly predictable system. Step 1, master your psychology, because your behavior drives absolutely everything else. Step 2, buy assets before you buy a lifestyle. Step 3, build those tiny compounding daily habits. Step 4, develop valuable skills, because your ability to solve problems out there is your greatest investment. Step 5, automate your wealth to remove emotion from the equation entirely. And step 6, think long-term. Always remember that the shade we get to enjoy today comes from trees that were planted decades ago. Ultimately, we have to stop asking, what's the fastest way to get rich? That is for sure the wrong question. Instead, the question is, how do I become the kind of person who naturally creates wealth? Wealth is not a one-time event. It's a side effect. It's a byproduct of becoming a more valuable, disciplined, and patient human being. I want you to fast forward 10 years into the future right now and imagine two versions of yourself. Both versions had the exact same 24 hours in a day, the exact same opportunities at the starting line. Version A spent the entire decade chasing appearances, buying up symbols of wealth. Version B quietly built assets, improved their skills, and just trusted the math of compounding. The only difference between those two completely different lives, the tiny, seemingly insignificant decisions they repeated every single day. Always, always keep this truth in your back pocket. Money is an excellent servant, but it is a terrible master. The goal here isn't to spend your entire life endlessly chasing after a dollar. The goal is to design a life where your money sits quietly in the background, working tirelessly for you. Because at the end of the day, true wealth is not about having millions of dollars sitting idle in a bank account. True wealth is owning your time, it's owning your choices, it's owning your peace of mind. And honestly, that is the absolute richest life anyone can live. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer. I really hope it gave you the clarity and, more importantly, the tools to start reconstructing your financial future today. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know which idea from this blueprint completely changed your perspective today. Let's keep this conversation going, keep learning, keep investing, and remember, the absolute greatest asset you will ever own is the person you become. Catch you next time.